Gloves here, and today we are going to be talking about send effects. There are two types of effects. There's insert and there's sends, and there are very big benefits to using send effects. So those reasons, I can think of three off the top of my head. One is workflow. You will actually speed up your workflow. The next one is processing. You will save yourself processing power. In some cases, a lot of processing power, depending on how bad you are an insert effects person. And the third reason is creativity. You will, if you've ever heard of parallel processing, it's basically just send effect chains. That's all it is. So that's really quick talk about what a send effect is versus an insert effect. So a send effect is an effect. So here I've got an effect in the middle here, right? It's a reverb, and I have my signal. So if it was an insert effect, this effect would be literally inserted into my chain. So the signal comes into here and out of here. If this plugin does not have an output, then it has been inserted, and as a result, nothing's coming out. There's no other signal. So my signal would come in here and get stopped by this effect. It has been inserted into the chain. There must be an output from this plugin. Now, a send effect is of a different configuration. Instead, we can do this. So we're able to say, oh, our signal is going straight through without going through any processing. But we can change the level. So just this is the volume of that right there. We're able to change the level we're sending to the reverb unit, the send effect. We're sending signal here, and it gets merged at the output. And as a result, you get your processing. This is really handy dandy. Let's see an example of this. So here I've got a Harmer, and right now it's not doing anything. So I'm going to turn down the volume just because this Harmer tends to be pretty loud. And so if I play some notes, cool, we've got that. Now let's say, oh, I want to add some reverb. Well, we'll talk about why I would choose this one, internal effects over external. But let's say I've got it in the mixer and I want to add some reverb from some other plugin that I have. Well, guess what? I already have it set up. I could simply send it to the channel that has that plugin already on it, and I can change the amount. So this plugin is going out to the master regardless of if I send it here, but then I can send it here and get some reverb. So I've saved myself time. That's the workflow benefit. And I can also say, oh, let's say that I have another Harmer. Let's say that this Harmer is also something I would like to process with some reverb. And I want my stuff to have the same reverb. So I'm going to go ahead and just put it there. And look at that. It's getting the same amount of reverb. Told you it was a little loud. Same amount of reverb, or not amount of reverb, but it also got reverb. I also saved time, and it's the same reverb. Instead of loading up a reverb on both of them and configuring them to be the same settings. This is useful. I recommend, I only have one here. That's because I use insert verbs, but for different reasons. So, and I'll explain those reasons in just a second. But you see that we have saved time, and I'm able to send as many things as I want to one verb send and save myself a great amount of processing. Instead of opening up, let's say I had 40 things I wanted to send here, I could have one instance doing that versus 40 separate instances. Now there's debate about whether or not they will sound the same. Theoretically, you'll get the same result pretty much, but people will be like, oh, well, you're sending it a different signal and it processes it differently because it's receiving a lot more signal. And there's just a whole load of things you could get into on the technical side, but like orally, there's not really a difference. So, okay, we've saved ourselves time and processing. So what I recommend doing is just making a template of whatever you think you're going to use as a send effect, and then just go ahead and put them down that way and save it as a template. So you can just drop stuff in like I've shown you here and just immediately, bam. When I'm not working in my template, like it screws me up because I have to go and add in all these things by hand. Now, the third one, so okay, there's typical things that are treated as send effects, and there are typical things that are treated as insert effects. So for example, compression is usually a insert effect. You insert a compressor into your chain. You don't send stuff to compression, but you can if you wanted to. And so that is where sort of parallel processing comes into play. So you see each one of these Harmers I have configured to have its own send already set up. Right now nothing's going to it, but as I send it, I can. And if you're wondering, if you shift click, it'll create a send for you, or you can click and just remove the volume if there's volume there, and then you could just put it in as much as you want. So it's not that crazy. So on this send, I could put compression, reverb, distortion, whatever it is, and then I could mix it into taste. So I might take this one down and then raise this one up according to the level and color my signal in very subtle ways. I could even automate this stuff and do some really cool automation things. And that would be using send effects in a creative way. I could have moments where it's got these send effect enhancements and moments where it's not. Maybe it becomes to the foreground and I want it to sound a little brighter or whatever. I could use a send and automate it on and then just take it away during parts where it moves to the background and is less important, as opposed to doing fader movements. There's just a whole bunch of options. You can really get creative with it. So I could just put things in here for days and do all sorts of cool send stuff. Now, so that's the creative part. So that's all three parts. So you save yourself time. So you see here I have some compression I could send to. I've also got a vocoder already set up so that anything I send to this modulator and this carrier will instantly assume the proper roles, and I could just rock and roll with the vocoder immediately. And then, so yeah, really, really handy stuff. I'm actually probably going to add a couple more verb channels because this verb and delay combo is really nice. If I sent that same harmonic there and just turned it up a bit, you see you get a much longer. And if you reverse the order, you get a different effect. It's just more pronounced on the delay instead of delaying the reverb. So just kind of a cool thing. You come up with all sorts of nifty effects chains just in your spare time. Usually they come up as part of sound design though, and then you realize you use that a lot, or mixing, and then you're just like, I'm just going to make this thing a send effect chain or a parallel processing chain, however you want to look at it. But typically when you do parallel processing, you're looking at shaping the sound of a particular thing. So you also see people create buses for other things such as a sidechain bus, and you can look at that sort of that's to be looked at more as a bus, because the reason it wouldn't be considered a send, so let's say like, oh, this is going to be everything that's sent to this one is going to be I'm going to sidechain it, right? I'm going to sidechain it the same amount, so I'm going to put one limiter, so you'd be like, oh, this must be a send effect. Well, it wouldn't be, because if you're sending stuff here to get sidechained, you're probably sending the whole thing there. So you'd be like, it must go through here, and then it goes out to your master and whatever. This would be considered a bus rather than a send effect, because everything's getting bused to that channel. You can look at it's sort of similar, but it's not, because you're not like sending amounts and blending it in. The whole thing's just going through there. So this is basically an insert effect that's just been placed outside of the chain, so you can send a whole bunch of stuff to this insert effect over here. I hope that made sense. If it didn't, don't worry too much about it. But we can insert effects here, and these are insert effects because our signal goes through here and then gets spit out, and it goes through our slots, and then it goes through and comes out, and we're able to go through and send it places after that. So it goes into our channel strip, goes through our effect slots, and then it goes out, and we're able to send it various places afterwards. It's just general signal flow. Now, let's say that why would you ever want to use effects in the insert mode? And there are reasons. Sometimes it's just an effect you want on one thing, so why bother doing that? Or you need specific settings on each one. So if you're going to need specific settings, then go by all means, put it just on that one. That's mostly the reason why I'll do things the way I do. And the other reason is lazy or habit. So I'm lazy, and I put it there because I was being lazy, and I shouldn't have been lazy. I'd rather have my computer do more processing than necessary. Or the other reason being, I have a habit of doing that. So a lot of you guys have probably not gotten into the habit of using verb sends like this. And so as a result, that's an assumption. I'm sorry for assuming, but whatever. You probably come in here and add a fruity reverb every time. And that can be cool because you can custom figure it, whatever. You can customize it to your needs. And as a result, sure, you get a different sound, but is that sound worth the trade-off you're doing? And some of these things are going away as in level of importance, but you're also spending workflow time. There's other considerations to be made, and how important is that reverb in your track on what you're putting it on. So just consider those things. You may consider just making a couple verb sends with various configurations, maybe one where you typically high pass things, and another one where you typically low pass things, one where you band pass things, a combination of the two. You set up what you typically find yourself grabbing for whatever it is you're doing. The other reason why I would use an insert reverb is because it's built in, and I want that particular effect. So let's say I turn on the delay and reverb in here because I want it to be a part of a patch. Well, then that's one reason I might do that. And it might have a sound that I really like, one that I know how to get a verb sound out of here that would be a struggle for me to find a similar sound in here. If you understand reverb, though, you could probably accomplish something quite similar in pretty much any reverb plug. But you get the idea. So those are some reasons why I would perhaps grab insert effects over these as send effects. If you have any questions about this, let me know. Subscribe and have a blessed day.